Hi everyone, today we've got a case of a 36-year-old male with left-sided abdominal pain, tenderness and guarding. Let's start off by having a look at the CT abdo-pelvis images. First thing to think about would be, do we have any evidence of perforation? I think it's quite nice to get that either ruled in or out early when looking at the scan and then honing in for causes. And as I scroll up and down this patient's abdomen, I can see no significant volume of peritoneal free fluid and I can see no intraperitoneal free gas. So that's reassuring. Now we've got to figure out why they have left-sided pain. Now when we're looking at the study, we can see the liver looks normal, the kidneys look normal, pancreas looks normal, spleen looks normal, and actually everything within the upper abdomen looks as it should. However, when we come down to the left iliac fossa, we can see there is this rounded area of quite significant inflammatory change, really centered on the fat next to the junction between the distal descending and the proximal sigmoid colon here. And what's really interesting about this fat stranding is that the inflammatory change seems to really be centered in the fat adjacent to the colon rather than deriving from the wall of the colon itself. So we can see there's a little tiny bit of thickening of the colonic wall there, but the significant inflammatory change is actually adjacent to it. And the other key observation here with this case is that there is central fat density material. Look, it's the same as the subcutaneous fat or the retroperitoneal fat or the intraperitoneal fat. We can see that same fat attenuation within the center of this inflammatory focus, which gives us a really nice clue for the likely diagnosis here. Let's try out this dictation feature to quickly put together a report. Focus of inflammatory change within the left iliac fossa adjacent to the proximal sigmoid colon. The ovoid area of significant inflammatory fat stranding has a central area of fat attenuation material. Very mild mural thickening of the adjacent colon. No intraperitoneal free gas or fluid to suggest perforation. The scan is otherwise normal. Let's have a think about differentials here. Why don't we see what RadChat can offer us? I've got an idea, but let's see. Let's try and think outside the box a bit. Okay, so it's thinking about diverticulitis as a possibility. I think that's an idea. Certainly it would be a key thing to exclude in this case, but I actually am more in line with the second option here, which is epipleuric appendigitis. And it's really, really important to think of other possibilities when the primary differential or the first thing you want to be excluding doesn't quite make sense. And I think what doesn't quite make sense for acute diverticulitis here is that the focus of the fat stranding is adjacent to the bowel rather than using and involving the bowel itself. And also we can't really see much in the way of diverticulosis here, particularly within the involved segment of bowel. So I actually would favour the epipleuric appendigitis. And it says that also would have this characteristic area of central fat attenuation as we're seeing here. So why don't we go for that as a differential here? Conclusion, epipleuric appendigitis. Okay, let's generate a report out of this stuff we've dictated. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I'll accept that.